Finance Committee, November 14th, 2017. Approval of the minutes. The minutes, I did send a copy of the minutes to everyone.
Yes,
and
you
there's
did.
a copy of the minutes enclosed in the packet.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Great. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion on any of the
Yes,
items?
I mean, I'd like to bring up the fact that in our meeting last time, when we discussed the warrant articles, it wasn't presented that we needed, the warrant article needed 2/3 majority to pass. And I thought it was a little bit off balance, I was a little off balance because that came up at town meeting. We needed it for the purchase of, and I was wondering, indeed, the accuracy of that, and also the accuracy of the issue of needing a 2/3 majority for a vote to table as well. We had both of those issues, unaware of them at the time.
Yeah, I don't think I was either, but it would have been good to know going in. Anything else on the minutes? Welcome, you're up.
Yeah, sorry. Construction
Okay,
delays.
just start. Oh, yeah.
I went down, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm taking the highway.
Oh, really? Oh, are they paving?
They're paving,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that's
So,
underneath. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions on the minutes? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Okay, the next item on the agenda would be first quarter financial report. Again, I sent copies of that out. I can mention a couple of things that I inquired about myself. Under the revenue report, the pilot, actually, you'll notice there is no revenue in 2017. It's because it didn't come in until 18, and that's the federal pilot. It's for Plum Island, I think mostly. So that was one question I had. In the bottom section.
Well, question, are we going to be looking for the same amount in 2018?
I don't know what that is, what that would be. Can't tell you.
Yeah, it looks like we estimated that we would get 54 if you look at the bottom.
Yeah. That
But
should
whether
be
or not-
down there. The estimate for 18 is 54.
So it's whether or not we're gonna get it again in 19.
Right, yeah.
Or we're gonna get more in 18 that counts, who knows?
I talked to Eileen, she said that you never know when it's coming. She said sometimes you get two in 1 year.
Okay.
At the end of 1 year, the beginning of another. So,
If you're in the
anyway.
federal,
Right.
goes
yeah.
the 30, they go October 1.
So, any other questions on the revenue?
What is the pilot?
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Oh, okay.
And that's for the federal government. This is federal government and it's for the Plum Island.
And there's also other ones that we get from the
Yeah.
state barracks and.
Okay. On the expenditure report, I kind of circled a few. This is a quarterly report, so it represents the first 3 months. There's one line item, actually, all of the finance department is only at 24%, but one line item was about 58, but I think that's some upfront costs for purchases of software, licensing and stuff. Reserve fund hasn't been touched, but there is 150,000 there, we're not gonna be touching that tonight. That's page 1. I didn't have any, I didn't circle anything on page 2 that I thought needed to be discussed. Anyone has anything there that?
I was just curious. I know we had expanded the budget for the tree warden and none of that has been used yet, is that likely just bills not having come due as?
Tree
The amount of
warden.
tree work that I saw around town, I was surprised by that.
He has expended, no, he hasn't expended.
Nothing.
He said that there was
Right.
an article placed in the newspaper to approve the taking down of some trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I think they were aggressively gonna be doing that, so I guess he had to go through a step of getting a public hearing.
Oh,
to
okay.
find
So
the
it's
trees
process
and
next year.
taking them down. And those are the trees that are kind of in the mine between, not close to the main road. Some are on High Road, they're different places.
Yeah.
And they're gonna take them down, I guess, and it seems to be that.
No, I figured it was a lag,
I think the people who live down High Road were hoping he would have cut a few of them down sooner before they came down.
By the school,
Right, that's my daily, I need to call National Grid to. I don't know.
Okay, page 3. Well, some of the high ones, the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, those are dues that are paid. The curbs, the
Curbs and sidewalks.
sidewalks, that was done this summer, that was the elementary school, that's why most of that's gone. Insurance is paid upfront, the majority of it. So I don't, everything there seems all right. What else? Page 4. The same thing I think would be true if you look down about 8 or 9 lines, the fire insurance premiums, again, I think that's, a lot of that is paid up front. The parking clerk, at 50%, I asked that, it's not very much money, but it's a stipend twice a year, so. Page 5. I asked the question about page 5 because if you look at the regional assessment, we've paid a third.
Yes.
And so I asked Eileen about that, and what they do is they've processed actually four payments. So that's why it shows up here, it was processed before the end of September, but it isn't paid. They don't cut the check, send the check until it's actually due, but it's due by the middle of October, so that's why it looks like that. Let's see. Oh yeah, DPW, that was the pickup truck. They bought the pickup truck, that's why that's
Right.
capital outlay is gone. And of course, the road improvement was done, a lot of it this summer. Page 5, let's see. Anybody see anything else on 5? It's
Snow removal, yeah.
it's snow removal.
No snow removal there.
Town library, oh,
Why-
Frank, go ahead.
No, why is, seems like Triton may be ahead of the game, but maybe not.
It is, Frank, I just did that.
Oh, okay.
We've made 4 payments during the first quarter, we've processed 4 payments during the first quarter.
But the
That's why
last
it's-
payment isn't gonna get
It
to them
doesn't
until
get
the
to them
second quarter.
until it comes in October, yeah.
Okay, so
It's,
explains 33%?
that's why it is, 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else on this page? I don't see. I think everyone's familiar with item 911, total retirement and pension contributions. That's all paid up front. And we save about 10,000 or something, I think. And I guess, unless there's anything, I don't see anything on the last page.
Nope.
Okay,
So are these really first quarter expenses? They all look like they're more like 20% expenses.
well, Frank, you don't expend exactly
Yep.
a fourth of your budget in a quarter. That's why this is somewhat, it's just a
Well,
guide.
I'm just wondering if it wasn't reported until like the end of August.
Well, you have some that are zero, Frank, cause they haven't spent anything.
Yeah, I
So-
understand that,
so
I understand that, but it's
yeah.
just in general, it just looks like it's not reported, for the quarter, so.
So if you look at the bottom line, total general fund, 30%.
Which is,
So on average,
Yep.
yeah.
on average, 30% has been spent in the first quarter, or has been processed in the first
Yes.
quarter.
Not
And the reason
necessarily
that that's a little bit high would be Triton, because there's
Well, two
which is
things.
almost $1 million,
Triton and
plus the
insurance.
insurance is almost a million, so that kicks it up in that.
Yeah.
So that's why the percentages serve only as a guide. You know, so. Okay, any questions on that?
No, I think that's been reviewed.
Okay, good. Item 4, we need to act on the reserve fund transfer, if you can buzz Susan. It's a request for 42,000 to replace
We're ready.
police telephone system, and Susan's gonna go over the request.
I think that was on the capital request report too, wasn't it?
No, it was not.
No? The 42,000?
There's a lot of other stuff on there, but not that one.
Yeah, that.
I quickly read through your
was reading
minutes, had
that
about
somewhere.
3 or 4 things.
Yeah, we had 4 things.
4 things.
Yeah.
But you didn't take any action at this point.
We did not, and I'll talk about that.
Yeah, right, yeah, okay.
When we get to that.
Okay, good. Ah, Susan was right there.
She has
Oh,
to-
She's right there. Hey.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Everybody knows Sue, I think.
Hello.
Susan. And Sue's gonna go over the request for the 42,000 for the telephone system.
Okay, so this request is coming in a little bit earlier than we had hoped. We had hoped to kind of push off any updating of the phone system until the new police station went up. However, the police station has been encountering a number of different issues with their phone system over the past 3 to 4 months that's just growing more and more every week that aren't solvable in the long term. So having said that, it was, when it was installed, it was an out-of-date system. It was priced right. It was put in place, it served both the PD and the town hall at the time. When we moved over here, we had to separate from them. So we acquired a new phone system here, and they retained the Avaya phone system that they have still over there at the PD. So, Deputy Chief Lucy has been kind of letting me know that they've been encountering all of these errors and problems, and he's not been able to solve them. You know, how can we go about, getting this addressed sooner versus later? So I went out and I got a couple of quotes, for systems. One for an Avaya-based system, which is the technology that they're currently using today, that we were on, as well as a quote from Vertical Communications, which is the company that we installed over here at the town hall. They're about, I think the Avaya system is about $3,000 cheaper than the Vertical system. However, the Vertical system does give us some bells and whistles that are advantageous, one of which being that we can actually network our system in with their system. So if either of us have an outage or a down, we can switch the phones to one of the other locations, which is a great benefit. As you know, we were down for 2 days because of no power, so that's a great selling point. Some of the other things that this system does is just there's a lot of user-based tools built in for the individual's extensions that allow better management. For example, any voicemails that are left, you can get a email message sent with the actual message contained right in it as a wave. And if you have a reason to share that or save it, you can save it as an email message. which is real nice. Also, what it does is there is a client-based application that you install on your desktop, which allows you to manage things, which allows you to see all your calls. If you've called them back, you can put your notes in there and indicate what the situation was. You called them back, or left a message, nobody heard, you know, you didn't hear back from them, you spoke, this is what you discussed, etc., etc. So it has a lot of key tools like that work really, really well. Most of the users, all the users here really like the system. So he's really hot on it. Every time, you know, I show him what it can do, he gets a little bit jealous and yeah, he would like to have this technology as well. So the proposal is for the vertical system. And, you know, it sounds like, you know, the sooner the better on replacing the system. So this is the first time I've had to come before you, so I'm not really sure what you're looking
That's
for,
good.
so ask me questions and
can we move it to the new
expand,
system?
yeah, we can
To the
move, new
building.
location, it can be
Okay,
moved, it's
that's
also
what
expandable.
Yeah.
So the idea, you know, is looking at a way to actually add the fire department on it.
Okay.
So, because they currently have an IP-related system now, so their phones work over the internet. It's not really working super well for them over there at Morgan Ave. It goes down a lot when the internet goes down a lot. And it also was far more robust than what they needed. So they spent a lot of money on the phone systems they have over there. Protection 2 did. And it's not really working well for them. So we're looking at ways we can actually expand a little bit, maybe add them on to the system as well, which we're all in the same location, so that would be kind of a nice way to
So would this be the
segue.
system that would be the standard throughout all of the departments for the town?
It
DPW
would,
included?
and the DPW right now is just a single line phone system, so they're kind of a standalone Comcast number coming into an answering system. Not to say we couldn't, we could certainly expand and add them in as an IP phone, because it's not a real it's not a critical, in most cases he's voicemail and he's callback mode.
Yep.
Anything critical that comes in can come in through the communication center at the PD or here. So yes, we could do it, we could expand other departments on it.
Okay.
Yep. And it is expandable as well, so if we needed to add another 15 lines, we have the capability of doing that.
What is the cost for ongoing monthly usage?
Usage or maintenance?
Usage first. Are we paying phone bills?
No different than we are today. It's gonna integrate right with the Comcast phone system that we have right now,
Okay.
and our phone costs will not change,
A phone monthly charge won't change.
won't change.
Now, historically, I'll
Yep.
just take you back a number of years, when we first delved into individual department budgets, we used to always see phone. Everybody had their own individual numbers and things of that nature, going to your point. And I just wonder if this is a move to consolidate everything on one telephone bill, one service charge per month.
Well, when I took over the IT stuff, what I did was I combined all of our locations into one billing location. So so all the bills are covered by public
Well, I understand.
maintenance buildings.
So we're not gonna see, like, for
It's not
example,
separate,
the
right.
Veterans Administration having a phone bill, the
Nope.
Council of Aging having a phone charge.
Nope, those individual departments will not receive charges to their departments for these. It's all taken care of here.
The warranty for serviceability, how long of a warranty are they extending? Is it involving with repairing and maintenance for guarantee for a year, 2 years?
Maintenance is included with this. It's a 5-year subscription for the licenses that we need. So that's taken care of for 5 years, so we need to account.
What is the cost breakout of that renewal of those licenses?
Well, the licenses themselves, I have some of the breakouts for each, but then he breaks them out. If you look, I think did she include the attachment there in the,
I haven't seen that yet, so.
okay, she didn't break it out, but I don't,
Okay,
she didn't give you this breakout here when she gave it to you? Okay, so this gives a breakout of the total protection, so there's a lease option and there's a purchase option.
Right,
So those are both options, you know, it,
42,000 request is for which option?
the request is for purchase,
Purchase,
because
okay.
over time, the equivalent of leasing it versus purchasing it ends up being like
No question.
$8,000
But we're looking at,
Right.
now, what, under which budget will we see these funds? Is it gonna go to the police department budget? It's gonna go to the town budget? It's gonna go to the IT budget?
It's gonna go to the IT budget because Tracy wants me to oversee the
So
implementation.
all telecommunications now will be found in the IT budget. So we'll see this budget, IT budget getting a $42,000 cost plus ongoing, and all the bills, like telephone bills, will come under the
The
IT.
telephone bills are covered by the building maintenance, so that comes under James Surratt and Highway. So he does the facilities maintenance, so all those come under,
But just
and
to-
are accounted for
but I
in
think,
facilities.
being a telecommunication thing, it should be under IT.
It can be wherever you
I
wanna
think
put it.
rather than putting on the building maintenance, cause I think it'd be wise if you just so that we'd have it in one spot. Cause I don't like this, half the bills are over here and half the bills are over there,
Mm-hmm.
and the 20 never come together.
That, the 42,000
It's
won't
just
show
for
up
the-
in your budget, because are we transferring it to your budget?
Yeah, I
That's my
think she wants it
question.
transferred in my
Okay.
budget, cause she wants to
Okay.
make sure it's
Alright,
managed
so we'll-
appropriately.
Okay.
So the 42,000 would cover hardware.
Hardware, software,
Installation.
maintenance, installation, yeah.
Would there be an additional charge for installation? And I'm probably getting too far ahead down the road, moving it to the new
Probably,
facility.
yeah, yeah.
But that may be well outside that 5 years anyway.
It may or may not, but it's gonna be more labor to move it, so
Right.
there'll probably be some time and materials associated with it. We're gonna have to do wiring for the new building, we're gonna have to accommodate for
It's
that,
all of that is
so-
gonna come into the moving costs
Exactly,
probably, that
exactly.
type of cost
Yeah.
will end up in the
So I would
moving
think
costs
this would
moving to the
kind
new.
of be bundled into that,
An old
I don't
phone
have a
system would
copy,
have
I
been-
need,
right.
I need that copy that you have.
Oh, yeah, I know you do,
it's-
yeah,
okay.
I was gonna give it to you as soon as,
Okay,
I was
so
holding out.
Alright, any other questions, anybody?
Is this for reserve?
So
fund?
if, you know, to your point, if you'd like to suggest that to Tracy, I mean, that's totally fine, I
Well,
don't
you know-
mind, I typically review them anyway, just to make sure nothing is out of line.
Right, I mean, but I don't,
So-
as I said, historically, putting on the building maintenance made sense, but now we're talking about a comprehensive IT communication, and if the bills are coming in to be paid for communication, I think it should be in the IT budget.
Why don't we, I don't know,
That's a different
that's a
discussion.
different discussion.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not a part of this approval process.
Okay, so we have a request for 42,000 to be transferred from the reserve fund, which currently has $150,000, which would leave us a balance of $108,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second,
That motion, second. And we
How,
need a-
how quickly do you need this stuff? What is the time frame? Is it, I understand it's an emergency request, is it, we need to approve and get it done before the first of the year?
I would probably start to get things in motion now, yeah, cause I'm gonna have to schedule them, I don't know what their, turnaround time is gonna be, so.
Okay, this is.
Is this
let's see,
impacting all the 911?
No,
No,
separate.
it's just
This is
the, it's
for-
just
yeah.
it's just the
It's a separate,
offices.
right, exactly, yep,
Good to know.
yeah, it's not the
that's-
E911, that comes out of a
But it
completely
is
different system.
the issues that are impacting if people are able to contact the non-emergency
Exactly,
line
Exactly,
and
yep,
making
yeah,
sure
and
there's
they
a
have,
trail
they
of-
have 30 lines right now, so they're just gonna port those over, to accommodate all the detectives and officers and staff.
Where is this, the whole unit gonna be housed?
Um,
Yeah, that's two
right,
two separate servers, right?
right now, it'll have its own phone server, so it will be installed in the IT room at Town Hall, which is that back corner office that we kind of ad hoc into, our area when we were there, so, I will oversee it and make sure it is wired appropriately and, installed and managed and maintained properly, so.
Okay, any other questions?
Are there any other fees or anything we should know about with getting rid of the old system? like
Not that I'm aware
anything
of.
to just, like, do we have to dispose of anything that's, it becomes, or
You
do
know,
we just
it-
call the
it-
company and say, pick it up?
We're probably gonna dispose of it at the transfer station as an electronic.
Okay.
It's not resaleable,
It's
it's so
not-
old, it's not
yeah.
maintainable, it's
Wasn't
has
that one of the
absolutely no
issues, you
value.
couldn't even find
Yeah.
replacement parts or
I mean,
stuff?
there's no replacement parts at all for it. You can find companies who will take telephone support for it, but in most cases, there's no fix for it, so.
Okay, ready for the vote?
Ready?
All those in favor, raise your
Aye.
hand, cause I need to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. There are no nays, no one abstaining. There's a vote.
Okay,
Thank you, Susan.
very good, thank you.
And I will give you this,
Okay.
so you can,
So you don't have a trailer to go back to now, right?
Not at the, not at the moment.
great, thank you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Okay, reports, any reports? Capital planning,
Hey.
let's see, we got anything from capital planning?
Yes, we had a meeting. We had 4 requests come before capital planning.
Okay.
And we had Jim Surratt and we had Doug Janvrin come before us. The tree warden did not come before us, but we had $100,000 request for the catch basin account. Evidently, they're trying to catch up on the stormwater drainage. They've done a fair amount so far
Yeah.
and have a couple of years worth of work to do. We talked to them about that because I thought at some point this should be a line item in the budget going
Yeah.
forward on an ongoing basis, but right now they've got quite a lot of work to catch up on, so they've asked for $100,000 to replenish that amount, that account. They have asked also for about $200,000, $199,700, that's close to 200, to replace a front end loader that's 24 years old. It had been scheduled to be replaced, is scheduled to be replaced. They will auction off the old equipment to help offset the cost of the newer equipment, but they probably won't get too much for it, and we don't know what that will be. So that will then come into, I think, our general fund, whatever's coming back for that. They're also looking for appliances that will go on this. It's got some updates so that they can change attachments really quickly
Oh,
versus
for
the old one.
Is that included in the $199?
That's included in the $199, plus some of the things that they're gonna get.
Quick change.
So it's a quick change stuff. The chief came in, they've got, and we sent it back out, 17 or 34 Scott Air Packs. They're pretty expensive.
Yeah.
They've got 17 in one area and either 17 or 18 in the other station. The second 17 is close to being ready to be changed out. And I did some calculations. If they're within 4 years, this is actually a pretty good deal. So he's going to come back and give us more information with respect to what they want to do and how old
What's the
equipment
pricing
is.
on that? Did he give you any? Or
Oh, for the total package, it's $273,000
for the air packs?
for the air packs.
That's for the 34.
That's for the 34.
Okay, 270.
Yeah, they're, you know, if you get the 17, they're about 9,000, a little over 9,000 bucks a piece.
Yeah.
If you get the 34, then the additional packs are about $6,000 a piece. So we'll wait and see what he comes up with.
Didn't we do this through this was one of the only override questions that passed a few years
Correct.
ago?
Sure.
I believe,
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
it was.
That was,
But
that was quite a while ago.
That was my
Yeah, it
question, I mean, we, what is, there is, two levels of purchase. One is that when the town has purchased their packs in the past.
Yeah.
And prior to, the departments purchased their own. And so, just from a inventory point of view, when did we should them, what were the useful life? And,
Yeah, that's-
get a sense.
That's what we asked.
Yeah, because I think that, you get caught up with the fact they're gonna get them cheaper, but, the question is, what's the useful life of that? I can see the ones that they existed before, but we bought some 190,000, I think was in the number. It was an override question.
Yeah, that was the only round
And were these the actual packs that they wear on their back,
Yeah.
the everything,
Plus,
and they
plus there was
do
a,
math.
plus there was a machine to refill
Yeah,
them,
that's-
and there was a couple of other things involved that maintaining the.
2 bottles per pack,
2 bottles per pack, okay.
plus the mask, plus all the other stuff.
And what do they get out of a pack? Do they get an hour, 2 hours if they're?
Depends on how you're breathing.
Yeah,
You really can't
varies,
say if
yeah.
you're a heavyweight like I was, they go quick.
Damn, just turned around and it's gone.
And the bell,
That's why you
and the bell rings and it's time to get up.
Yeah.
Right. No, but they're a kind of a safety issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even though you can argue they don't go into buildings anymore, they all do most of their work from outside, and but with all
You
the,
gotta go in, all
Well,
the
you
stuff
need
that's
it.
in there,
well, no, it's just
plastic
but
burning.
it's
and-
also, it also permeates the exterior as well.
Yeah.
You're close enough to
Yeah.
a source of carcinogen materials probably that could be negatively affecting them.
We had this is several years ago, a toilet seat in the school caught on fire.
Really?
Okay. And it
Okay,
plastic.
I'm not even gonna ask.
Well, I can tell you, some
I'm
kid was
guessing
smoking
high
in there and
school
put
or-
a cigarette down. But some teacher saw this issue in and threw water on it. And the fire department had a fit because it was this dense black, I mean, it was sticking to the walls, that's all. And he said, you don't wanna be doing that. He said, you get out. But just to the point of the fact that you need, if you're gonna go in there and do something, you need something to protect you.
One of the questions I had, Marshall, was the fact that when the fire department was here producing their cost of expendables, wasn't in there. I wondered why all of a sudden this comes up. I suppose it's a capital purchase versus an operational purchase. But it wasn't in their 160,000 request. This is definitely different.
Yeah, this is definitely different. And
Okay, I got my answer, no problem. It was more of a capital request than a.
Right, you're,
But I think in reality, this is kind of the stuff that we should be budgeting for, because say it has a 15-year life, and then we're gonna have to redo it again.
Oh, I think you're right.
So,
Well, I think technology could change in the interim, but I think, that's it. But okay, move on.
okay.
That's
Anything
great.
else?
The fourth one was?
CPC?
Okay, the fourth one is the tree warden has a request for $170,000 truck with an aerial lift for doing tree work. And he was not there, but I did talk with James Surratt. And I said, does this truck go to the tree warden or does it go to the DPW? Because if the DPW had this truck, then we could do a switch out on our streetlights and go to LEDs and save money and stop renting them from the power company. And Tracy said they are already working on that particular project. So, again, I'm waiting for more stuff to come in to look at this and say, how are we going to justify
Well, I
This
think,
cost
where
versus-
would they house the vehicle?
DPW?
So it's gonna be within Surratt's DPW buildings.
I would think so, yeah.
And I think that the maintainability, he's had a pretty decent track record on being on top of equipment maintenance. So if he's engaged with the vehicle in any way, maintaining it, doing what they need to do, keep it, then I think it more fits that it's a highway department type of vehicle.
Yeah. I'm just wondering what ramifications, if any, there are to the fact that tree wardens elected versus DPW personnel.
I
Like just
don't-
in
I don't
times
think-
of whether that makes any, like, I don't know if that is a factor at all, but that was just something that
Well,
I
he
would
can
have.
use, I mean, he's not gonna be using it on a daily basis. It's not
Right,
like-
so-
The question, for example, is, you know, the other option is that there's so many tree people around today. You wonder, for example, is there an option to rent or involve a third party when you need that type of vehicle, rather than investing totally in one yourself? I mean, we've had a very limited tree warden engagement.
Right.
And I think it'd behoove us to say, let's see, it. The need is there, no question. I suppose that I was interrupted in my travel through a crane that was taking down a tree, and that seems to be the way for the future of taking trees down that way. But I wondered with all, like, you know, there's different tree companies even in town and they have that equipment.
Yes.
And I wanted to say, well, do we look at the alternative of saying this, and somebody says, you know, how many trees per year and how many times we're gonna need this thing, you
Does
know?
it cost you to lease a truck for a day or rent a truck for a day?
Yeah, and
Might
that's,
this be cheaper in the long run?
this is some of the questions that we.
Yeah.
You're on top of it, okay, all right,
No
good,
decisions have been made on any of that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
okay. One question in my mind for the capital planning, no discussion on fire truck replacements?
No,
Okay,
none at this time.
None yet.
well, within the 2018 fiscal year program, okay.
Right. But there are emergency requests.
Let's not go down that road. We don't have that emergency budget, okay.
No request for.
So
Okay.
that- that's what I got for you.
Thank you very much, well
So
done.
we'll keep an eye out on these.
Yep.
Anything new on,
And we haven't rescheduled, or haven't scheduled another meeting until we get some more information back, and then we'll schedule that.
anything on, master plan? Probably not changed.
We've met on the master plan. We went through the transportation report on the master plan, not a lot of information there, and then we're meeting again tomorrow night. Again, doing some more master plan work. I've got a report for tomorrow doing wastewater. And taking a look at the possibility of doing a wastewater study for the town of Newbury.
You mean getting rid of septic systems?
Well, you know, it's one of the things that we looked at. I've done a lot of trips up to the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission at some of their meetings. And they had some talks about the fact that without developing the infrastructure for wastewater, you're basically limiting what the town can do and who can afford to be in the town, because the cost of property is so high that without wastewater treatment, you can't get younger families in, you can't get more affordable housing. It's just, with our soils and our conditions, we can't do it. So I've gone and visited, been going to sewer systems, I'll tell you. Big deal.
I did that last week too. Quite the experience.
Yeah, it is. And so, looking at people who have designed and put these things in and how they work in different towns, but one of the issues from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission was the fact that if we are going to be more egalitarian and get more people in and maybe more younger families in affordable places in the town, this may be a necessary part of town. I don't know if the town will vote for it or not, but I think what we need to do from the master plan side is say, we need to take a look at it. Taking a look at it doesn't cost a lot of money. Going from there to what does it look, how many people can we serve, and what does this town have for possibly need for that for both cancer housing and for commercial is something that
Because that is always a limiting factor,
Oh,
is
yeah.
that you can only get, even when we were looking for the locations
Yeah.
for town hall, police station, was that we became very limited.
So that's it for master plan. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow.
Great.
You're welcome.
I don't, there was a DCC meeting I did not attend, I wasn't able to attend, so I don't have anything, wasn't able to
I
go
didn't
either.
attend either.
No, so we don't have anything on that score. And,
I suppose we could always ask Alicia what, if she heard anything.
well, or we can read the minutes.
Right,
And we're going to hold off, hearing Larry report on the landlord tenant agreement, unless you wanna do a dress rehearsal here, Larry.
I like to do dress rehearsal if you don't mind.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
We have been meeting with 3 towns on what they call the landlord-tenant responsibility. As you know, the town of Newbury has moved forward the idea that we would be probably wise to transfer the ownership of the Newbury Elementary School in total to the Triton District. Keep in mind that we pay for it one way or the other. It's not, we're not making any savings necessarily. Because if it goes to if it went to the district, then they would take over the responsibility, but bill the individual towns for the work that they did. But we're kind of hamstrung on that because of the fact that historically, business decisions have been made in which the town of Salisbury's elementary school was put under the Triton budget to be paid for Triton due to fiscal benefits. So they do not own that school, and nor can Triton transfer ownership until they pay off their note, which is a 2021 timeframe. So essentially, we would be hamstrung on each, with the existing program. We own the Newbury L, Triton owns Salisbury School, Raleigh owns Pine Grove. And at that point in time, so well, maybe we could standardize across the board. But the gentleman from Raleigh indicated that they're going to be spending some $30-odd million redoing Pine Grove School. So they're going to have a big, long-term payment, and so they can't transfer that to the town to Triton until they pay off the note. So historically, moving forward beyond our lifestyle, is that each of the individual towns will have their own elementary school in which they will be responsible for it, equalizing the responsibilities across the board. So that's really where we stand.
and that's to be updated every 5 years?
No, not necessarily. Updating 5 years, the suggestion is that the intermunicipal agreement that we have could be updated every 5 years. But the ownership of the schools looks like we will retain ownership of the Newbury Elementary School, and we're responsible for the exterior repairs, roof, windows, doors, and things of that nature. And they've identified, and insurance and things of that nature.
Larry, has Salisbury indicated a willingness?
Well, they made themselves aware that, yes, they've indicated a willingness to take over. Yeah, exactly. It was some discussion by the Salisbury that you'd have to educate their town management that that's what's going to happen, that take over ownership of the school. The only thing that we have an insurance payment issue, but it's marginal.
Right.
Excuse me. Ready whenever.
Oh,
Okay.
I have one question for you, Larry. When we looked at, what about things inside school? Because we had.
In your document,
Yeah,
you'll see it pretty well laid out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What we call the town's responsibility, district responsibility. And it's really defined, for example, Marshall, that
Yeah.
minor repairs costing less than $10,000 it's not covered by insurance, that they'll do an emergency basis.
should we go
Yeah, we'll do that.
adjourn with you?
Sure, let's go.
Okay, we'll finish it up.
Don't ask any questions.
I won't.
Debrief STM.
Oh, just a little, yeah, I wasn't there, let's see, who wasn't there? Marshall wasn't there.
Nope.
I've sort of gotten information from Frank, from Larry, from Erica, from Tracy, so.
Yeah, that was quite, I didn't think we'd get much of a turnout. The mistake was made, there was in excess of 200 people there.
Yeah.
And as I said, like most of the things in the town, we're seeing it's stronger active participation. The only thing I would, and I don't, I guess I don't know the full details, but the one item was a land purchase down in Plum Island for the use of the toilets of the facilities down there. And what I didn't get was, when did this land come available, how quickly it came, and these things happen in a very tight time frame. all of a sudden somebody said, I'm gonna sell the building, do you wanna buy it, and we have to move quickly, and I think that there wasn't a lot of advanced prepping the people for it. I was taken aback by people who were down Plum Island, talking to state representatives, trying to negotiate money to have it done and so on. I kind of felt a little bit displeasure that that's not the responsibility of individual citizens. They could have worked with us to do that, but we might not have had the time to do it.
It was really tight.
It was what?
It was really
Oh,
tight.
yeah.
I mean, between when it came up and.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't,
It's
but see,
not-
no one really could have, I thought Sam Jocelyn's performance there was outstanding when he was talking about why can't we build this facility on the, what they call it, the pavilion, which I guess is up by the gazebo, you know, and he was very strong, saying you can't do it there because it's a velocity
Yeah.
low
V-zone.
area, and so you don't get permits for it, even though it's wetlands on both domains, you won't get it in the velocity wet zone. So he was very strong in that, and I think he did a very nice job. But again, with the unknown that we needed 2/3 majority, even though a majority did vote for him, I think we lost by 8 votes. That's the type of thing that was a little disconcerting.
My understanding is that there was a fair amount of misinformation given as well by people in the audience.
Mhm.
But
No, there wasn't
And-
there were
It
just
was,
it was just
it was
Conjectures.
conjecture
Assumptions.
Unverifiable.
and unverifiable.
yeah, but beyond that,
claims.
I think that the window has not closed on this, from my understanding. So
I think it's a lesson learned in here.
Yeah.
Is that the only is that maybe Marshall with the other statement that we had a very tight time frame.
Yeah.
Is that we weren't made aware of it until we first met in October, first week in October.
Right.
We met 3 weeks later. There was no time to strategize on how to approach this and how to make a definitive presentation or discussion from fiscal. Even though, we talked about some things and, and they talked about, well, the parking lot could be part of the deals and, well, how much is that and this and that. It all became conjecture on some on our part. We didn't have the ammunition. But, we have to be prepared for all issues of this to be contentious.
Also, I will bring up something that was brought to my attention, that the lack of a presentation this time was, one of the Board of Selectmen brought that up as something that they thought that we should hire someone from the outside to do a presentation. I have committed to working with Tracy, that I'm sorry that night I was unable to be prepared for one because of family circumstances. But Tracy and I are going to look at parts of how town meeting works, because quite honestly, the idea, we weigh in on the financial of whether or not that's a good decision, but the strategy of where the town is going is a leadership position. And we're not set apart to set the town's strategy. We're set in to weigh in when proposals come to us and to evaluate and be the eyes and ears for, like we were tonight with the reserve fund. To take action when is needed, and we ask the right questions. However, some things like this that are a larger part of a more strategic vision, we need someone that is in that position to help at least tee up those types of requests. And whether that be that this time it was a facility and it was on Plum Island and it had a bigger impact, and we didn't have time to lay that story out before we got hit with a question that asserted that another direction was a better option. So the town never set forth its own plan of saying, this is why we want it. All someone did was read the motion. So there's a way to do it in a way that we're educating before the meeting and during the meeting why the ask is coming, not just justifying why it's a good financial, which was really well written out in the rationales. But it's not always just a financial, it's whether it's a direction. It's
Right,
whether,
and
and that's where we need a
that-
combination of some leadership.
That comes back to the master plan.
Yes,
Because the master plan is the strategic document for the town.
right.
And so tying this back to the master plan is the job of whether it's planning board and the selectmen or whoever takes ownership
Yeah.
of that.
I would tend to agree with what you're saying, that master plan is key. I don't think it's all in the hands of the selectmen.
No.
I think the
No.
master plan will weigh in heavily under that.
But even things like this where there is because when Tracy laid it out for us, I thought that I understood it in a way that, but I wasn't sure that it was my role to stand up and say, this is what our understanding
We
is.
didn't have enough time.
But there were also 4 members of the Board of Selectmen that approved that and put it on the warrant as well. So if
See,
we're
but-
approving it and putting
If
them
we're
on the
gonna do
warrant,
it, if we're gonna do a proper debriefing, and I think this is a
Yeah.
case where we should be debriefing, we'd like to know some of the information. When did it become available, number one? And that's the first thing.
Right.
And maybe, I don't know when the land became available. When did they decide that this was a good thing to do and put it on the warrant, number one? And then when were we involved in it? And we weren't involved to the 11th hour. And I think strategically, the question how to go about this is somewhat what you need to do, such as, okay, this is on, who are we going to inform and get input and understanding that this is what's going to happen, so that these people don't go off talking to state representatives on their own and saying, wait a minute, and doing the town's business. I was embarrassed.
The timing was clearly,
Well, I was embarrassed to
the
listen.
time frame was.
I mean, they have every right to do it, but I walked away saying, we've got like a mayor of Plum Island, and a mayor of Byfield, and a mayor in Old Town, and they run their own districts, and we're not a town. It was,
and like, especially when they're talking to the mayor and getting approval, and I'm like, wait a minute, we don't have a mayor.
Yeah.
You can't, like, Donna Holliday's word
I think,
doesn't, yeah, it might
exactly,
be,
no,
we might need
but-
to,
but I
like,
think-
we know we've had to
but-
tie into the sewer system, with things like that, but we don't operate that way.
we're
We
coming
need to
close, we're
come
doing a
out.
better job. The debrief, how we handle this is important. The thing of it is that, like you said, when did it become available? When should we be involved in it? And, maybe because we can be a constructive sounding board for some of these issues. And we had some people say, well, it was a little loose when they said, well, you could buy the parking lot at first refusal. What are they looking at? And some guy come up and said, well, you're paying $10 million an acre. Well, the fact of the matter is that the cost of land in Plum Island is
It's
that.
probably, exactly, so.
From an acre, and you can't buy an acre. If you could, you probably have to pay. But that property was. But I thought the overall.
It's-
But they came so close. See, the thing is that we came so gosh darn close to getting what we thought would have been. I thought personally would have been a wise investment to get the porta potties off the parking lot, to have a facility that people could use it. And even though. What it costs and maintenance and clean it and da-da-da-da-da.
I think the lesson is, we have another opportunity to bring that forward.
For this piece, but for
and we
other
have-
pieces
and we have
going
time.
forward,
But in doing that, to Erica's point, there has to be, I think, a meeting of the minds around, because we don't have a master plan at this point.
no,
So
so in the interim, until we
I
have
think
one,
it's important for the roles of leadership at town meeting be clarified in terms of what should the selectmen be responsible for speaking to in terms of the leaders, what should we be, and it's simply a meeting of the minds before we meet,
Right.
before we have the town meeting.
Could that be a joint presentation? One member of the finance committee, one
It
member of the
depends on what
selectmen?
the issue is. In
Yeah.
some cases,
should be-
it's simply are responding to a financial issue, but in other cases where there's a project or you're bringing something forward, you get a.
I agree. I think anything that requires a 2/3 majority, because I've been through many of these
Oh,
things,
yeah.
where the 2/3 majority rule applies, you have to think constructually different. I agree with maybe,
Yeah.
maybe a joint fiscal
A
finance.
joint, if
A
it's that.
fiscal
of that
and
nature.
selectmen presentations, if it's a 2/3
Yeah.
majority.
Yeah.
And what that really means, you think it through, and you
Yeah.
and you touch the bases. Because 2/3 it just plays into a small minority of people blocking where
Right.
we wanna go. And they have every right to, this is town meeting, this is their right.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that when it says 2/3, red flags have gotta go off, and
Yeah.
you gotta treat it different. Now, I wouldn't say a presentation needs to be made when it's a pure majority vote on some of our budget items. No.
no, but
Yeah,
I
this
think
is-
that when we're making something that, because this one was a
Was a
longer story.
significant
This was
investment.
this was a longer story about what had been done, there had been a parking lot looked at, and this wasn't gonna work, and we know in order to bring back services, we need to have a revenue stream. And there's a longer term plan that's, part of the services is,
Yeah.
we're not doing it as a marketing
Well,
effort, which somebody thought, which
no,
was,
I
to
agree.
bring in people from outside, it's to take care, it's to serve the population we already have. And it's that longer story, and anytime we have any of these things, it's gonna be a longer story, like the where the fire department might be going or where the ambulance, all of those require broader context before we just whether it's, this is where Tracy and I had to work through, is that what we have to do legally for town meeting in terms of reading of the motion, but how that, we don't just open it up to,
No.
does anybody have any questions? And because we don't get to steer the
Story,
we go
I
from,
think, is
yeah,
the
we
key
go
word in
from
what you're
we
saying.
go from the legal language to a question, and we have no direction from that point. We have lost our direction.
Well, I think.
Yeah, well, the whole meeting, I missed a lot of pre-meetings before that, so I apologize for that. And I'm generally in favor of the idea of the restrooms and parking. But the whole meeting started off, I thought, on the wrong foot. And even Christopher said it. Jeff got up and was only lukewarm about the whole thing. He hemmed and hawed about it. Well, we can do it or not do it. And then Ronnie Barrett got up and said, well, Bruce Tars promised us money to do it. What? And that threw
Here's where
everybody off.
that's why I felt there was some misinformation conveyed, right? I mean, that's what,
Yes.
I wasn't there, but that's my impression. So
Yes,
anyway,
because there's no money.
so let's move to,
So I think it's kind of.
One of the.
Well, the other thing I thought was, this is a much broader problem or project than we're talking about here. There are a lot of questions being unanswered, and there were a lot of good questions coming out of the crowd, albeit it was a 2/3 vote that was needed. I'm not sure we even knew that at the beginning.
that's what bothers me.
We did not. The other thing came out was that I thought that really resonated with me was the lifeguards. And I know that we've kind of, I think we may be in a fiscal position, and maybe it's the chief that has to talk to the subject matter, because I guess they report to him. But that came across to me as a kind of an open issue, that we don't have them.
And we don't have them.
And maybe we should consider, and I understand, but the fact of the matter is that, if there's some standard in other beaches that do or don't have them, and whether or not they're required, or should be considered from, I don't know how much, I think it was $50K, what we had to pay for it, and I think
10
we're.
years ago.
Yeah.
But I think we're in a position, but I think the motivation to do it, because if the responsible person, like the police chief, doesn't want the headache of it all, which could be a big issue, because the staffing issues, coverage.
There's ways.
All
There's
the-
ways to work it. He's worked under the DPW for
Well,
years.
well,
different
I'm just saying that
Yeah,
I was taken aback by that, because they were saying we do not get any services, including lifeguard services, and I said, oh, that was a little sore.
And that has always been
that's-
at Plum Island. Plum Island itself, I think, is divided on that issue. Those folks who rent property, I'm sure, want lifeguards. Those folks who have their own private homes may not, I'm not sure.
Well,
And Plum Island is not a family-friendly beach.
No.
It's just not. So there are lots of factors, and that's not for us to decide.
Right,
But I
and that's
think
the thing, is that if,
somebody else
if
has to
someone's
say,
making that
this
proposal.
is what we should do, or not, not us, but.
okay.
But
Yeah,
it
when
could
it
be a
comes to
part of the
line item.
discussion.
Well, I think when it comes
Yeah.
up, when we have our next,
Yeah.
budget preparation, at least we should have a discussion there too.
Yeah, so I think that's.
And the other thing I wanted to say, Polly did a good job, a very good job with the writing of that. Unfortunately, somehow, I don't know, post office or whatever happened.
Yeah, about that, we really need to get the final draft of the rationale and sooner,
That was
because
on me.
what happens is that, we went with a new printing company who was absolutely amazing. I didn't even have to touch it. There was
Yeah.
no mass effort here
Yeah.
to put labels on and
Right.
all that stuff. The problem was that they had a 5-day turnaround. They got it out in 4 days, which was great. They got it to the post office in time, but something happened with the post office where there was some kind of miscommunication, and it didn't actually go out in the mail until the afternoon before the meeting. So if we have a few days leeway, we can address problems like this that come up.
One of the things that we discussed, actually when I met with Tracy earlier, was perhaps looking at it a little differently. And just as an idea, and I will throw it out because I think at some point we're gonna have to discuss it. Rather than doing that kind of a mailing, you tech people can help, you will know more than I. Postcards, 2
Yeah.
postcards. You send an early postcard indicating on that postcard where they can go on the website, where they'll be available at the library, at other places,
Town hall,
town hall.
library, police station,
And
fire
because more and
departments,
more, I think our population is
council on
using-
aging.
yeah, wherever. That's one other option rather than doing the printing the whole document, mailing it out, you mail a postcard. Then you
Yes.
mail another postcard shortly before as a reminder of town meeting.
I think that
Which,
helps.
which, I mean, I'm used to looking and having it in my hand, but most people, I think today, are able to use, you know. So that's another possible option we think about, but you're right. Whatever we do, we have to, and that's what this is about. I talked to Tracy about that. How do we get the information we need out? The decisions we need to have made sooner.
Right,
So the Board of Selectmen have to make a decision
sooner.
then we have the opportunity to make a decision.
Yeah, so the
And
last 2
so
years.
that you have enough lead time, and you're not, well, you avoid what happened.
I'd say the last 2 years that we've prepared budgets here, we've been tag teaming. Tracy's been giving us a heads up on the budget and on the warrant.
This has
And
been
we've
my-
been
yeah.
talking about it, we were in the trailers talking about it, we'd be talking about theoretical articles. And then we, at the last night possible before they have to be printed, before they have to be certified, the board votes whether or not to put them on. We jump back in another room and we take votes on things we've been talking about for 3 weeks going up. And that's slightly chaotic.
Yeah.
And the other part too is that, so Tracy, when she comes in, she usually gives us a pretty good rationale. So if we can capture that from her, if she writes it and then we just, instead of reinventing the wheel, we edit we take the business speak that she can use with them and with us, and we then can massage it. We're not rewriting, we're just wordsmithing a little bit. But I love the idea of having it be on the website in a consistent, easy to find, one click into the website, not going into minutes, into this, into that. We're gonna lose people every step of the way. But if you have it so that we say town meeting, because right now we have town meeting, posting, minutes, and you go through 4 steps before you get to see what the warrant articles are. And so I think that part would be streamlined, and then it's the consistency factor. It's knowing that town meetings in March, we get that first mailing the last week. In February, we get another one a week before the meeting, and we always have that cadence. And then people start to read it and get to know. It's not gonna change 1 year, it's not gonna change every 6 months.
I think if we,
Go ahead.
if we can keep one page dedicated on that site, that's just plug and play. As soon as we do that, the massaging of the language, it's up there, and that is the site that they know to go to from then on. And then for the 2 weeks prior to us getting that language, it says, check back here soon for this information. Information goes up until town meeting. And then every single time, it's that same
Yeah.
page.
There
The
is-
postcard is brilliant.
First, it will work, yeah.
The one, because I use these at work, the postcard wants to do 2 things. Turn it over, you have a second and a half to capture that person.
Yeah.
Here's what to do with the postcard. You make it day-glow orange
Yep.
with the print.
Not
Why?
Newbury green?
No, day-glow orange.
Yeah.
Because they pay attention to it. What the hell is this? You know, I got a ticket somewhere. But day-glow orange, and then the link on the website is day-glow orange.
Yeah. So that they can
You just
match
go in
it, you
and say,
have to
match
be
it.
able to match it.
There you
Oh,
go.
okay.
You have to be able to match it and just
then
have
you're
it
in.
be,
I thought you meant on the postcard. Completely lost me.
No,
no,
the postcard says, do this, go to the website.
Right.
On the website, there is just a label. It's that color.
Town meeting
So
warrant.
you don't even have to, you don't have to
that's the
read
thing,
it.
is that it's streamlining it to the absolute fewest steps between the,
Yep.
where do I need to go? Every time you make one more click, you've made it that much harder.
One of the,
Then you'll lose
it's
people.
not necessarily totally limiting, because I think we can do our work, but before that, I mean, we also are dependent on Triton submitting their budget, which they don't have to until March 15th, I think. But
Yeah.
I asked her, and she did do it, but I didn't get it before I left. She put together a calendar, plugged in some time frames that we should all print this out and send it to everybody so we can comment see if this makes sense, because we are going to have to do what we used to do a little bit in the past, is to commit to more meetings during the heavy duty time of March. It's really March. I think you have to have more meetings. And the Board of Selectmen have to as well, yet the town meeting is the 24th of April. The Board of Selectmen posting the warrant, she's got down here, April 10th.
Yeah, that's it,
There's
that's
a
the
joint
thing, that's,
meeting scheduled of the FinCom and BOS April 3rd. And then in March, there's 1, 2, 3 FinCom meetings scheduled. The other thing that we talked about was she gets the budgets in the middle of January from her department heads. We talked about the need to bring in what departments we may want to have come in to do a couple of things. One is to go over their budget, but also to help us take a 5-year look ahead too, so we know. And the fire department still, I think, would be a good one to do that with. But any other department that we want to do that with, we should, or Tracy may suggest some that we may want
say
to
if there's a
have.
budget that looks like it's gonna have a
Like there's some
significant
issues,
increase or major issues, that
So-
if she can help us identify, I think that we all can anticipate.
But we gotta be on top of the time frame ourselves, a little bit more than we have been.
I think that to save Tracy a little bit of time and have it be, and this might be the April 3rd meeting, is when she does that budget presentation, the budget book, she usually gives us the books, but then she does a presentation. If that can be a joint meeting between the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, so we can all ask questions at the same time and hear the answers and hear what others have been asking, I think that's the April 3rd meeting, probably.
I'm guessing, yeah.
We're gonna have to make a concerted effort to try to consolidate this, and I think
Yeah.
your point of, if we have 3 meetings in March,
Yeah.
we'll get
Yeah.
there quickly.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, most of these things, there's only 1 or 2 outliers that require, and your point being, I think, that so we can defend our decision if asked and have the information readily available for the rationale, then we'll be okay.
Do we have the dates now for those 3 meetings in March?
Tentative dates, yeah, I do. The 6th,
Is that regular?
the 20th, and the 27th.
Good, are we gonna get compensated for, FinCom?
Yeah, about double what you got last time.
Just making sure that,
Becoming more of a, other departments get
Town meetings,
compensated,
yeah.
Oh, and she has in her notes here, I just found it, town meeting notification, postcard sent to residents. Prior to the meeting, which points to the appropriations booklet on the website and where they would be available, she's got that. And then another notification that there is one town meeting, reminder, town meeting. Which is another way to go about this. I mean, I like to get it, because that's who I am, but.
if you can go in, it's an easy one click to,
Yeah.
like, you can go open it and then
She
print it,
talked about
you
putting
can,
it right
then
on the
it's-
face page.
Yep.
What's it called? I call it face page.
Splash
Open.
page, yeah.
When you open it up, there it is, right there, and you just hit that, and there it is.
Yeah.
All right. Other business, anybody?
Nope.
Our next meeting is December 5th. It is scheduled.
I will not be there,
Okay.
or fortunately, as the case may be.
I'll find out if we don't have much, we may just let it go. We'll see. I'll see with Tracy if we have stuff.
You mean let go the December 5th one?
Yeah, let's put a question mark and we'll see. I mean, there's no sense in meeting if, so we'll trade the December meeting for one of the March meetings.
So in March it's 336 and
I'll send the
322.
calendar, I'll send the calendar out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That she sent out. I got it too late to print it out at home.
motion to adjourn.
I
Is there a
second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Good.